is the headlines of the hour. Foreign Minister Rana and Indian Prime Minister Modi hold meeting in New Delhi. Discussions held to increase bilateral cooperation. India to import additional 251 megawatts of electricity from Nepal. 684 citizens of 8 countries seeking recognition of refugees in Nepal. Risk to the country's security due to foreigners entering illegally. Experts suggest to strengthen border security. Government makes preparations to lift the ban on women migrant workers from working in Gulf nations and Malaysia as domestic helpers. And India start off their SAF Under-20 Championship campaign with a 1-0 win over Bhutan. Munirul Molla scores the only goal of the match in India's win. Minister for Foreign Affairs Arzu Rana Deuba, who is in her 5-day official visit to India, met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the two leaders met at the Hyderabad House and held discussions to increase bilateral cooperation between the two countries. Earlier today, Minister for Foreign Affairs Rana also met with her counterpart, Indian Minister for External Affairs Subramaniam Jaishankar in New Delhi. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs informed that the meeting delved into mutual interests and increasing development collaboration, including energy, trade, connectivity, and fiscal infrastructures between Nepal and India. After the meeting, Indian Minister for External Affairs Jaishankar said that electricity exported from Nepal to India had reached almost 1,000 megawatts. He said that talks were held on strengthening the people-to-people ties. In a post on social media platform X, Minister for Foreign Affairs Rana said that topics including mutual interests of the two countries and cooperation were discussed during the meeting. After her meeting with Indian Minister for External Affairs S. Jaishankar, Minister Rana expressed belief that her India visit has further deepened historic ties between Nepal and India. Minister Rana had reached India at the invitation of her Indian counterpart yesterday. It is also her first foreign visit since becoming the minister. Need to update on. She will return home on Thursday. India is to purchase 251 megawatts of electricity from 12 more hydroelectricity projects of Nepal. With this, electricity exported from Nepal to India will reach 941 megawatts. According to the Nepal Electricity Authority, the number of projects exporting electricity to India will reach 28. The authority had exported electricity of 16,930 million rupees in the previous fiscal year. The Nepal Electricity Authority has claimed that it has become a profit-making exporter as export had exceeded imports this year. Nepal had received the permit for exporting 39 megawatts of electricity in October 2021. After that, India has been approving permits for export of electricity produced from new projects in several occasions. With the recent approval, the Nepal Electricity Authority will find it easier to manage the excess electricity during the period of Dasai Tihar festivities. Meanwhile, despite an agreement for exporting electricity to Bangladesh from this year, the program for implementation of the agreement has been pushed because of political turmoil in Bangladesh. There is no law in Nepal to hold individuals displaced from foreign countries as refugees in the country. Even though Tibetans and Bhutanese are said to be refugees, Nepal has only given them humanitarian asylum. In a country like Nepal, the arrival of citizens from third countries to seek asylum is also considered a challenge in terms of security. Except for Tibetans and Bhutanese, 684 citizens of 8 countries have taken refuge evading Nepal's immigration system. According to reports from security agencies, citizens of third countries who came to Nepal illegally by abusing the immigration system are now becoming a security challenge. As the political situation in Bangladesh has changed, neighboring India has tightened its border security. India has increased the deployment of border security forces at the India-Bangladesh border. In 2012, the Rohingyas displaced from Myanmar arrived in Nepal for the first time. At that time, organized groups in Nepal had brought the Rohingyas by land to Nepal using the Indian route via Bangladesh. Nepal has not been able to keep them in an organized manner, and according to the analysis of the security agencies, the Rohingyas are adding risk to the internal security of Nepal. According to the data of the Prime Minister's office, the number of Rohingyas in Nepal has reached 416. The number of Rohingyas living with their families is increasing. However, the aid given to them by donor agencies has been reduced. If they are not managed in time, they may cause damage to Nepal's security system. After the Taliban seized power 4 years ago, some Afghans were also brought to Nepal. Now the number of such Afghanis has reached 34. After entering Nepal illegally and reaching the UNHCR office, they have been living in Nepal. According to statistics, there are citizens of 8 countries who came to Nepal illegally from third countries. The number of Pakistanis is 188. Similarly, 16 people are from Sri Lanka, 2 from Bangladesh, and 9 are from Iran who are staying in Nepal illegally. According to the data of security agencies, except for Bhutanese and Tibetans, 684 citizens from third countries have come to Nepal through illegal routes. Since the immigration and border security system will determine the state of national security, there is no alternative but to increase the strategy and capacity to face the changing challenges. The Parliamentary Special Committee formed to probe the fraud of cooperatives has taken its investigations to the final phase. The committee has begun writing its report after holding consultations with government officials, past committees, experts, and interrogations with those arrested for their involvement in the abuse of funds of cooperatives. The committee had begun its works in the Nepali month of Ashar after regular voices were raised at the parliament, while the victims had continued their protests with the demand of justice. Thousands of victims who had deposited their savings in more than 500 cooperatives are awaiting the report of the committee. They have continued their protest with the demand of justice and return of their savings. The committee has held consultations with past commissions formed to study the problems of cooperatives, officials of such committees, operators of cooperatives, depositors, and has interrogated those alleged of involvement in the abuse of funds deposited and cooperatives and those already arrested for the allegation as well. The committee has interrogated Kedarnath Sharma of Tulsi Multipurpose Cooperative, Geeta Sharma of Shiva Shikhar Cooperative, CB Lama of Pashupati Multipurpose Cooperative, operator of Gorkha Media Network Kumar Ramtel, former operator of Surya Darshan Cooperative Shiva Kumar Gurung, Dipesh Pun, who is alleged of abusing funds of Supreme Cooperative, chairperson of National Cooperative Bank Krishna Bahadur Upreti, among others. The committee has also recorded statements from 19 individuals who are behind bars for their involvement in the fraud of cooperatives. According to the chairperson of the committee, Surya Thapa, the committee is preparing a report on the basis of consultations and study conducted so far, which would furnish recommendations for the return of savings and improvement in the national economy by addressing the problems of the sector of cooperatives. The committee has also sought suggestions from legal experts. Experts have suggested taking actions against organizations involved in transactions against the principle of cooperatives, furnishing recommendations to rebuild the trust among the public on cooperatives, and ensuring immediate return of the savings of the depositors. The committee, with a term of 3 months, which was formed on 28th of May, needs to furnish its report by the first week of September. 7 individuals have died in separate landslides in Bajang and Jajarkot. 4 individuals, including 2 children of the same family, died after their house was buried in landslide in Tumeda of Bajang's Bungal municipality. Kali Dhami, Golki Dhami, Astika Dhami, and Lakshmi Dhami were killed after the house of Birbadur Dhami was buried in the landslide. Those killed are Bir Bahadur's spouse, daughter-in-law, and 2 granddaughters. According to District Police Office Bajang, bodies of the 4 deceased have been recovered with efforts from the local residents and the police. The landslide had buried the house at around 1 a.m. early this morning. The landslide has completely destroyed the house. 5 individuals had been immediately rescued from under the rubble with the efforts of local residents. Meanwhile, Sudur Paschim Province government has announced of providing 100,000 rupees each for the deceased to the family. The meeting of the Sudur Paschim Province government held earlier this morning made the decision and also directed the related departments for rescue and relief efforts. Elsewhere, 3 earthquake victims have died in Majagaon of Nalgarh Municipality, Ward Number 2 of Jajarkot after a landslide buried a temporary shelter. Police have identified the deceased as 42-year-old Lal Bahadur Pariyar, 34-year-old Manisha Pariyar and 2-year-old son Shivam Pariyar. The government has made preparations to lift the ban on women migrant workers from working in Gulf nations and Malaysia as domestic helpers. The government has made the preparations because Nepali women are being charged exorbitant fees by middlemen while leaving for Gulf nations through India, as they have been prohibited from leaving the country through Nepal's airport, and risks of human trafficking have increased. A pilot project is to begin from the United Arab Emirates to send Nepali women as domestic helpers. Considering increasing grievances related to financial and sexual abuse, a committee of the parliament had directed the government not to send Nepali women to Gulf nations for domestic help around 8 years ago. The committee had urged the government to send the workers only after reaching a strong labor agreement with such nations. However, such an agreement has not been reached with any of the Gulf nations. In the absence of the agreement, middlemen have been sending Nepali workers to Gulf countries through India. Women living through these channels have found themselves unsafe. Speaking at Friday's meeting of the Industry, Commerce, Labor and Consumer Welfare Committee of the Minister for Labor, Sarat Singh Bhandari, said that Nepali women were found reaching Malaysia and several Gulf nations through illegal channels. The parliamentarians had also urged to lift the ban by ensuring complete safety of Nepali women migrant workers. There is a huge demand for domestic helpers in Gulf nations. Even the high-ranking officials of countries including Kuwait to Qatar have been requesting to lift the ban. However, the government has sustained the ban so far, citing directive of the parliamentary committee. But the government has made preparations to send Nepali women for domestic help to Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, in a pilot project. Minister Bhandari said that women workers would be sent to Dubai in the first phase by ensuring their complete safety. According to the Department of Foreign Employment, more than 80,000 Nepali women have left for foreign employment in the past 1 year. Of them, more than 20,000 had returned and left again. However, Nepali women do not have a legal route to work in Malaysia and Gulf nations so far. The government also does not have any data on the number of Nepali women employed in an illegal manner in these countries. The government had imposed a ban on Nepali women from working in Gulf nations because of a lot of grievances regarding sexual abuse. If the ban is to be lifted, it is important to consider the directive of the parliamentary committee back then. The committee had directed to reach a strong labor agreement with the destination nations, add assurance of complete safety of women from the employers. The committee had also directed to form a mechanism at Nepali diplomatic missions to address the grievances of the workers. It's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse. But
before that, let's take a look at the results from yesterday's poll. Yesterday, we had asked you, what is the reason for the rapid increase in migration from villages? 54% voted for A, searching for opportunities, 37% for B, differences in development, and 9% for C, migration is a natural process. And here's today's question. What do you term the government preparation to send women migrant workers to Gulf nations for domestic help? Your options are A, send after reaching an agreement, B, prioritize their safety, and C, increase regulation and monitoring. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. In our Public Voice segment today, we have asked, why have efforts to curb dengue not been successful despite government plans and budget expenditure? Let's take a look at what they had to say.
सरकारले बनाएका योजना र जहाँ समस्या छ उक्त ठाउँमा चाहिँ समस्या समाधान हुने गरी यदि बजेट र कार्यक्रम पर्यो भने यस्ता रोगहरू नियन्त्रण गर्न सकिन्छ।
सरकारहरूले धेरै प्रोग्रामहरू गरिरहेको हुन्छ, अवेयरनेस क्याम्पेन पनि भएको हुन्छ, तर जहाँनिर गएर गर्नुपर्ने हो नि त्यो लक्षित ग्रुपमा चाहिँ नभएको भएर चाहिँ यो अलि कमी कमजोरी भएको।
सरकारले डेङ्गु रोगको लागि प्रचार गर्न कन्जुसाइ गरेकोमा रोग नियन्त्रण नभएको होला।
डेङ्गु रोग जुन लागेको हुन्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ जुन सरकारले जुन कार्यक्रम लिएर आएको हुन्छ त्यो क्षेत्रमा सरकारको सक्रिय पहुँच नपुगेको चाहिँ देखिन्छ।
गाउँ-गाउँमा पनि त त्यही अनुसारले वितरण पनि गर्नु पर्यो नि, त्यसले के कारणले हुन्छ त्यसको रोकथाम गरिदिनु पर्यो।
जनचेतना फैलाउन सरकार अझै पनि सकिरहेको छैन।
जनचेतनाकै स्तरलाई नि अगाडि बढाउनु सबैभन्दा प्रमुख दायित्व हुन्छ।
जनचेतनाकै कमी जस्तो लाग्छ।
आफ्नो सरसफाई राखेपछि राम्रो हुन्छ।
टोल छिमेकहरुमा गएर जनचेतनामूलक कार्यक्रमहरू पनि चलाउनु पर्छ।
The Sudur Pashchim Province government will not allocate funds for projects of under 2.5 million rupees in the ongoing fiscal year. Addressing a press meet organized in Dhangadi today, Chief Minister Kamal Bahadur Shah said that the projects to be implemented by the province government would not be carried out through consumer committees. The province government has embraced the new policy as past practices of spreading funds for small projects and conducting them through consumer committees were found inefficient. Chief Minister Shah has clarified that the budget would not be allocated by setting individuals, groups, organizations, private firms, companies, or cooperatives.
भएमा कार्य योजना सहित सशर्त अनुदानको रूपमा स्थानीय तहलाई वित्तीय हस्तान्तरण गर्नेछ। 3 प्रदेश सरकारबाट व्यक्ति, समूह, संस्था, निजी फर्म, कम्पनी र सहकारी आदिलाई बजेट विनियोजन तोकेर गर्ने छैन।
The Sudur Pashchim Province government is now preparing for the budget for the ongoing fiscal year, as the budget introduced by the previous government led by Dirga Sudari was not endorsed. Chief Minister Shah said that the full budget would be introduced within a week. We have more news coming up, but right now it's time for another short break.
Sports news.
India started off their SAF Under-20 Championship campaign with a 1-0 win over Bhutan today. In the Group B match played at the Anfa complex in Sadobatu, Lalitpur this afternoon, Munirul Molla scored in the 37th minute through a header to give India a 1-0 lead. Bhutan's Kinle Gelchen and India's Pramveer and Vanlal Pekka Git were red-carded in the 69th minute following a scuffle, and India were reduced to 9 players and Bhutan to 10. Both the teams failed to score in the remainder of the match, and India sealed the 1-0 win over Bhutan. India are atop Group B with 3 points following today's win. India will next face the Maldives in their second group stage match. Bangladesh will face Sri Lanka in tomorrow's match. The match at Anfa Complex is scheduled for 3 p.m. kickoff. The National Sports Council has made preparations to assign the responsibility of the 10th National Games to the Sports Development Council of the provinces. Despite a few provinces organizing some programs, Bagmati Sports Development Council does not have adequate budget for selection of athletes, nor does it have required infrastructures. Provinces have been making possible preparations for the tournaments under the 10th National Games, slated to be held in Surkhet from 17th to 24th of November. However, selection of athletes is yet to begin in Bagmati province. With closed camp for the tournament uncertain, the athletes are not enthused about the national games. After the end of the 4-year term of erstwhile Member Secretary Suryalal Bhandari, the Bagmati Province Sports Development Council has remained without leadership. The council, which previously was under the Province Ministry of Social Development, is now under the Ministry of Youth and Sports following the split of the ministry. Based on existing arrangements, Member Secretary of the Council is to be selected by the Ministry of Social Development. Preparations have begun for amendment of the provision which would allow appointment of the Member Secretary from the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The National Sports Council is yet to formally inform the Bagmati Province Sports Council about the national games. With selection of athletes to be affected because of inadequate budget and infrastructure, Bagmati Province Ministry of Sports is making preparations to begin the selection process by managing some budget. In addition to Bagmati Province, other provinces are also in a sorry state in terms of sports infrastructures. At a time when preparations are ongoing for the national games, it is important for the federal and provincial governments to make the best use of this opportunity to prioritize construction of sports infrastructures. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Good night.